So Megan's going to stick with us for our next topic here. We're going to talk a little bit about gay marriage. So what are our views? Because there's so many people that are against it and stuff. There's people fighting these laws, and it's like a big thing right now in the news. And for or against?
For, absolutely.
Megan?
Yeah, for.
For, okay.
Obviously.
So I think we're all for gay marriage. Why do you think people are against it?
I think a lot of people are scared of change, and they don't want everyone to be equal, and which is ridiculous.
Well, I think that there is a huge thing too that has to do with the society, and it's like a confusion between equality and sameness. I think that we all have to be individuals, and so I think that that might have a big impact, and I don't think that we actually have a society that is really apt to let us be individuals because just social pressures and things, but like I think equality and sameness are confused a lot very often. And I'm for it personally, but I do believe also another reason why it's not so accepted is because separation of corporation and state, you know, because it's just too influenced by one another.
My thing is like, really, whose business is it, like, who you're involved with personally? I mean, it's your own business, really, so. And if you want to get married, so what? Like, you know, like, people get divorced every day.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people get into bad marriages every day.
Right.
So there's really no reason or excuse, like, why a gay person can't get married.
And just like Martin Luther King said, don't judge a person by the content of their skin, but by the content of their character. It's the same thing with like sexuality, for example. Like someone's sexuality is just a part of them. That's not all of them. And God loves us all. And it bothers me how these churches are saying, oh, it contradicts the Catholic diocese or whatever they want to say, but yet they're preaching God. God loves all the same. So they're so contradictory with their ideas. It's awful.
Now, do you feel that sometimes when people are so against it, that maybe they have a little bit of that feeling inside themselves?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because there's also that whole scientific aspect of, you know, like the human biology of the human body. It's so, you know, they only know so much, but it's just like we were talking before about that, you know.
Well, I'm just like, okay, why are you so concerned about it? Like, how does it affect you if two other people are together? It doesn't really affect you.
Well, do you even really believe in the bureaucratic aspect of marriage, like saying that a piece of paper validates love? It doesn't validate love, you know, and like that's absolutely ridiculous to think that you could say this person can't be your family because of their sexuality. It's like telling a heterosexual couple that adopts a child, like, that's not your child. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and if you try to tell that to a heterosexual couple and say, this isn't your family because it wasn't, like, biologically, like, yours or whatnot, or, like, sound as far as we, you know? And it's too much, and it's just like, how could you be so avidly against it? You know, it's...
And what do you say to somebody who thinks that it's a choice?
Oh, I mean, sexuality, in my mind, is a preference. You know what I mean? When it comes down to it, in my mind at least, you know. So as far as a choice, but you can't help what you prefer. You know?
I like that. I like that.
Nice.
Well, I think it's like you can't really help how you feel, too. You know what I mean? Like, you can choose not to do it, but if you feel that way, then you're going against your feelings.
And I think everyone deserves the right to be who they are. Going back to the individuality thing, like you deserve to feel centered and balanced in who you feel like you are.
And what about for laws and stuff when, you know, people want to get married for legal reasons too, like, you know, visiting your spouse in the hospital?
Well, that's like the whole separation of corporation and state thing, because they were saying, I've heard a couple arguments, you know, and I don't like to talk very much about politics because it's such a sticky, ugly situation that's like too much. But the one argument I had heard was, if it comes down to it, the beneficiaries and stuff, like who is like legally allowed to get your benefits of your job or your health insurance, and they're like, well, what if straight people or heterosexuals are going to pretend to be gay? And I'm like, well, yet again, that's like nothing that gay people did. That's like heterosexuals, like. So,
but you could pretend to be with anybody.
But yeah, exactly. That's
you know
I don't understand that argument. It's kind of beyond me.
Yeah, and people marry people all the time because they want green cards. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So,
right, for sure.
and that's perfectly, I mean, it's not legal, but I mean, but people do it and get away with it.
And that's accepted more.
Yeah. And it's like.
And again, like, the way our society is, it doesn't want us to love ourselves and to be who we really are.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So I think that has a lot to do with it too. Politics and you know, wanting us to hate ourselves and to try to be something else.
I think the younger generation is coming around though,
yeah.
because they're more used to seeing it in the media, public eye and stuff, and people are just more open about it. I think that it's just a lot of the older people that are against it. I'm not saying everyone.
No, it's true though.
I'm not saying everyone. I'm just saying like there's a majority of older people that are really against it.
Well, everything comes with time, change,
Right.
yeah, and that's just the natural evolution of things. Is things change and progress, and we see things are outdated, and we move forward, and we say, okay, this isn't correct, but that's the one thing that would help the progress of things is that if we understand, like, just because it was done in the past or we've gone this way doesn't mean that that's the correct way to go about things now. Like, things need to change. Like, everyone grows and develops.
Yeah. We should all do it together, and different generations have different ideals and whatnot. Do you guys think that there's a bias between, like, do you think lesbians are looked at different, like, two girls together? Do you think that's looked at differently as two guys together?
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes.
I absolutely do think
and it's
so.
it's horrible. It's horrible.
That double standard.
It's so bad because, you know, it's like, and I, for a long time, it's like the whole gay community, I obviously support it, but at the same time, I don't like the seclusion of it because I feel like it's like, you know, I feel like everyone should be kind of involved. Like, the oneness is what we should be. Not the sameness, but the oneness is what equality is.
Unity.
It's like being equal. Yeah, unity. And that's important. Like, I think that it's so terrible that there has been such a violent stigma against males, you know? It's the same. It's almost like you can't believe that how ugly people could act towards other people because of, you know, it's the root of it is fear. It always goes back to fear.
But I mean, they've done this experiment like on What Would You Do? They have like two hot girls sitting on a bench like making out. And people like walk by, they have like no problem
Right.
with it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. But then you have two males doing it and people are calling the police.
Right.
because they're making out and stuff. And it's like, really?
What do you think people are so scared of? We talked about fear. What do you think people are so scared of?
The social accostation. Like, no one wants to be socially accosted because that makes them separate, and that takes away from their unity and their ability to feel like they're one, you know? And as soon as you're like, in sociology class, a couple semesters ago, we were learning about it, and it was like, the leading cause of, like, suicide is, like, people feel isolated and can't be part of a community, and that affection and, like, the connection to other people is absolutely necessary for, like, appropriate social growth. It's so important.
For development.
Yeah.
And you know how they say, divide and conquer.
Jessie J has a song out called Who You Are. And I think that song really puts it the best. Don't be afraid to be who you are.
And there's nothing wrong with who you are.
Do you guys have any last words for anybody that may be watching that maybe is feeling this struggle right now? I
do. I think that for all political and social issues, I think that the root and the change that everyone needs to go into, and this is not to say religious, but a spiritual evolution. People need to get more in touch with who they are, and to an extent that means you need to pull yourself away and think, like, okay, how do I feel about this? What is actually the truth? And then come together with people who are like-minded and make sure that everything that you do is, like, positively influencing other people. Like, just have a very respectful barrier. And to respect someone, I genuinely believe, is to be able to look at them and say, I see you for who you see you as, in the positive light. And, like, that's the most important foundation in my mind.
Anna?
I just hope that people can, you know, find a way to strip away everything they've been taught, everything that they've learned, everything that they've seen or heard, and just look within and think of, how do I feel? What do I know inside? People need to seek love more.
And talk to somebody, like if you're going through something.
Reach out.
Yeah.
I just
like,
mean seek love, like, for others.
Yeah, they say that it's all about, love is giving. It's not about taking. It's about being able to give someone a connection.
Well, interesting conversation.
It was
Thank
good.
you for joining us for that. And we could go on about this like all day. There's so many issues involved and stuff, but we really hope that, you know, people come around and they understand it a little better. So